Welcome to the Global Landscapes Forum 2019 here in Accra, where we're discussing restoring Africa's landscapes, uniting Africa from above and below. And this afternoon, I have the pleasure of speaking with Philippe Dardel, who is a senior natural resource management specialist with the World Bank, where he brings over 30 years of expertise in rural and agricultural development and food security. Philippe offers both field and institutional support experience from work in Africa, the Caribbean, and Europe. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we'll just start off our interview. So the World Bank has been working with the Terra Africa partnership. Can you please tell us more about what this involves?
Yeah, okay. So the Terra Africa partnership actually was created some 15 years ago already. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you need to go back in time a little bit to understand the situation. We were maybe over 10 years after Rio conventions.
Okay.
And so and still some action, but not that much action in terms of addressing land degradation issues, at least not at scale. So a number of partners came together, UN multilateral partners, technical partners, African institutions, NEPAD, the African Union Commission, and so on, to sort of boost the agenda. And basically at that time the issue was what will it take to scale up significantly interventions, action to address land degradation in sub-Saharan Africa. And so they created that partnership which focused on a number of activities, but essentially one of the core ideas was to really support countries, their respective countries in Africa, to undertake whatever analysis, diagnosis, planning, monitoring, communication, advocacy, whatever activities to design and develop plans and implement them that would scale up land degradation mitigation, if you will. A number of instruments were really targeted at that. I mean, it's interesting that it was relatively focused on supporting countries in scaling up sustainable land management.
Okay.
So it also worked at the more regional or continental level in terms of raising awareness, increasing the understanding of land degradation and what are the options in terms of sustainable land management. And how to monitor and so on. And actually it came up essentially with this vision of or understanding of sustainable land management and landscape management in terms of a broad menu of interventions that cut across forestry, rangelands, agriculture, water, a number of sectors. And you need to coordinate all of them or address land degradation through these different domains to get the best outcomes, basically.
Okay.
So that's and we can say today that 15 years later, there's a much improved understanding and awareness. The agenda has raised. I mean, this GLF is an illustration of how this agenda has been now better recognized. Terra Africa has contributed, other partners have, other initiatives have as well. And beside this, indeed, we can tell that a number of interventions, there has been an increased number of interventions to address land degradation at scale. Under Terra Africa, among the frameworks or initiatives that have been promoted, supported, are, for instance, the Great Green Wall Initiative, through, for instance, a program called SAWAP, and the GEF played an important role in promoting that. And right now we see a number of countries that have actually initiated as a result of all this long-term effort. Programs are really large scale, like. Two examples in Ethiopia. This year you had the approval of a program of $600 million from the World Bank, but there are other partners also in Ethiopia working there. So it's a very large scale operation, $600 million. Nigeria They have added resources to an existing program to the amount of $250 million,
Okay.
addressing land degradation in the drylands, northern drylands. Big operation there too, and so it gives an indication of the demand, the recognition by a number of countries of the importance of the issue for their economy, for their development, and so on, and also the demand shows the demand that some countries are making, not necessarily all, for really large-scale interventions.
Interventions. Wow, quite amazing. So what are some of the essential elements in building landscape resilience, particularly in the face of this climate crisis?
Well, the good news of all that, but we know that some sort of business as usual scenario to address land degradation in that context, and in the context also, let's not forget food insecurity or food security issues, peace and stability issues, and so on. So the business as usual approach is not really acceptable. I mean,
Right,
it will not
anymore.
make it. I mean, the numbers of vulnerable people to climate risks, for instance, will increase dramatically. This said, the good news is that quite a number of solutions are now known, proven. We know more or less the scale of what is needed, including financially. There are, in particular in the domain of agriculture, environment, forest restoration, and others, water, and so on. They also include domains like economic diversification. It's not just about managing natural resources. It's also about safety nets and so on. So we know a number of proven solutions that have been already implemented in many cases by countries, by stakeholders on the ground. So there's this experience to build on. And the scale of what is needed is within reach of budget aid and so on. Okay, it's something like between 50 million and 200 million order of magnitude $1 million per country per year across sectors. It's not just one sector. It's not just forest or agriculture. It can be different sectors. So we know that. But the scale of financing is still not has still not reached that level. So there's still a margin for progress.
For progress. Okay, I hear you. So how would you describe your vision for sustainable land management? I guess
well, as you've
mentioned, yes, exactly.
That, well, I think it can be important in the context, for instance, of this forum, the GLF. I think it's important to keep a multi-sector perspective. Okay, there is a tendency for each group of stakeholders and so on to stay within one area, one agenda, and so on. And it is important that each agenda, each domain be treated effectively, fully. But we're speaking of the landscape level where so many different stakeholders interact, and sometimes smoothly, and sometimes not so smoothly. So it's important to take into consideration the whole landscape and the different users of this landscape, the different stakeholders. So it's difficult. I mean, it was already on Terra Africa's agenda 15 years ago, and it's still an important perspective to emphasize today, because there's always this tendency to create silos and stay away. So, yeah. Okay,
great. And then what about this whole idea of turning threats into opportunities, where, I mean, we're facing this massive climate crisis. In terms of the World Bank, looking at the problem in a different way, is the World Bank involved in that, in turning these situations or these crisis situations into opportunities where, people can...
Certainly. I mean, the whole idea of when we provide support, financial support, but also technical support to our clients, like we say in our jargon, in terms of developing operation. I mean, supporting their implementation, is about designing, proposing, offering options, solutions to address the issues in their context, I mean, challenges and so on. So the first step, of course, is to assess what these challenges are, I mean, the future scenarios and so on. But then we already know that there are a number of options available to address these. We can, if we don't know them, we can go and check in other countries, in other regions, I mean, what has been done, the success stories, or maybe yes, options that were taken there. And that's a logical part of the business, is to, we can't stay at the level of complaining that things are going wrong. So yes, we need to say that and communicate on those challenges and so on. It's important. But then it's about, okay, what are the options, the solutions, the way forward, the perspectives.
Right. Okay, but I guess just lastly, like, we have a small window of time that we've been given, like 10 years or 12 years to turn things around. So what do you see? Do you see that we're on the right track, or what more needs to be done to scale up our, the world action in terms of, restoring our landscape so that we're not in...
Well, a lot of initiatives, I mean, we could argue that not enough is being done, okay. We need much more, so much more, or much more. I mean, you can discuss at the scale. We especially with regards to climate change, reactions tend to, because of the nature, the sort of nature of climate change, which is everyone's problem, but not necessarily a very tangible, immediate issue for individual people.
Yeah.
But we know what the projections are giving us. There are different projections, but none of them are very positive. And you could also say it's already there. I mean, so yes, definitely much more needs to be done. A lot of initiatives are there to advocate and mobilize efforts and resources. There could be a little bit more of synergies between initiatives. There's a lot of overlapping. I mentioned some silos,
right,
between institutions, between sectors, and so on, at all levels. But that's also the nature of who we are, I suppose, what institutions are about. But I mean, that it would help it would be more effective if we could work a bit more together and understand a bit better each respective sectors,
right,
and the rationale there. So, I mean, again, much more needs to be done. Next year on the climate change agenda, for instance, we have the NDCs will be reviewed, the nationally determined contribution. It's an opportunity to, in Africa in particular, to re-engage, I mean, reboost some energies and efforts. There's the biodiversity agenda is coming up very strongly right now as well. So with political backup and backing, I would say. So we need to build on these processes to scale up our efforts.
Right. Okay. Well, I really thank you for taking the time to come and speak with us.
Thank you very much.
And I have 2 busy days ahead of you, but we appreciate your time. Thank you, Philippe.
Thank you.
Merci.